Yesterday we had Cybertrucks in 11 showrooms across the US. But now we are seeing more and more Cybertrucks. There's one in Canada, basically it's Vancouver City. There's one in Houston, Texas now. They just keep coming. And look how packed this Tesla showroom is just because of the Cybertruck in Washington State. Do you think some of them that walked into this showroom took a look at the Cybertruck, said, oh, you know what? Let's buy a Model 3 or a Model Y. I think to some extent it is certainly happening. That is a lot of people. We will see how long this excitement lasts, but for the Cybertruck, this is fairly bullish.
That's what I want. That's a good Christmas present right there.
That guy's really excited about it.
That guy's all over the place.
The excitement is very real. I don't think I have seen any Cybertruck this dirty before. I would love to see this cover open and see if anything got inside. My bet is probably it's clean. Farzad just made a Cybertruck related prediction. Cybertruck will not launch with FSD version 12. I think that makes sense because FSD 12 is not here and the Cybertruck deliveries start next week. Cybertruck will have hardware 4 and that hardware is currently a few months behind hardware 3 as far as capabilities go. James thinks that the Cybertruck battery pack is going to be 150 kilowatt hours, which compared to the F-150 would be actually quite a bit bigger. And because all of these batteries are going to be 4680 batteries, Tesla should get a lot of the battery credits directly from the government. This is not the $7,500 credit. This is the credit that the government gives to Tesla just for the battery production. And James estimates that Tesla would get almost $7,000 for a Cybertruck with a 150 kilowatt hour battery. There appears to be some good news for Tesla in Sweden. The main problem there is with the strike. Tesla will not be able to get new license plates for new vehicles, so deliveries will soon stop likely. But now there's a professor that is challenging the unions here basically and saying that Tesla should actually go to court. Sweden's system is very different from the system that we have in North America. And it seems to me that it is generally accepted that mail not being delivered to Tesla because of the strikes is okay, but that could be seriously challenged. And if Tesla wins, that would be really good because the union could keep the strike going, but I mean, it doesn't really affect Tesla all that much. Tesla can figure all of the other details, but not getting license plates and new customers not being able to actually register their vehicles, that could cripple Tesla's deliveries. And then Tesla either gives in eventually or the strike goes on for a very long time until the union says, okay, we had enough, which could be a very, very long time. This reveals something really interesting. I found this article in Swedish. I translated it to English with Google Translate, and it says that Tesla may be able to go to the court of the European Union and not to a Swedish court, and a European Union court I think would be much more likely to side with Tesla because Germany and France influence the European Union a lot, and Germany really has so much power. And Germany loves Tesla. They have a factory there. The only thing that Tesla needs to prove in court is that all of these companies going on strike against Tesla is not a force majeure, and therefore, because it is not a force majeure, mail must still be delivered. That's the only thing that Tesla needs to do. Everything else, I think Tesla can work around. It appears that the union is possibly using some mafia-like tactics to get people to join the union. I have seen a message where the union employees threaten Tesla staff that you must strike or you will never work in a unionized workshop again. It is for your own good if you want a job in the future. And this actually means that you will never ever have a job because 90% of workplaces are under some sort of collective agreement in Sweden. So this is a big and serious threat. And James says unions are corrupt criminal enterprises. I wouldn't say that about every single union, but there are certainly some unions that act like that. I found another article in Swedish which adds another important piece of information that we all need to understand about the strike. Why do the unions want to force Tesla, for example, and there are other companies as well, into a union agreement, collective agreement, where employees will actually make less money and employees don't even want to join the union. Why do they want to do it so much? Well, once a company signs a collective agreement, probably it will also have to contribute to these extra pensions, and these funds are controlled largely by the union. So that is starting to make sense. You know, we don't really care about our union members, that they will actually end up making less money because we will make the money. Suddenly, this makes so much more sense. I am still digging into this and there's a lot to learn and understand, but this does seem very possible. Moving on, we do see some good things actually happening in Europe overall. Tesla sales, for example, in Spain will set a new monthly record in November, and it's not even the last month of the quarter. By European standards, Spain is actually a pretty big country, and this quarter, it appears to me that Tesla is going to completely crush the previous delivery record in Spain. So that's good news, especially if that trend continues for all of Europe. There was a rumor that just by working for Tesla, you get free FSD on your car, but Elon points out that this is not accurate. You have to be on the, I assume, quality assurance team to get free FSD. It has now been a few months since we saw the FSD 12 live stream, and I assume it has improved significantly since then, but also at the same time, it was in Tesla's backyard, so it remains to be seen how good it will be outside of San Francisco. But Omar says FSD 12 could be the moment that changes everything, or it could suck even worse than version 11. Elon Musk points out it feels human, and from the live stream, it certainly did feel quite human, although it did make that mistake where it tried to go through a red light. In Europe, Tesla is advertising without advertising. This is Sixt, which is a big car rental company, and is advertising that you can rent a Tesla. This is not exactly great news for us Tesla stock investors, because X is losing supposedly between 30 to maybe as much as 50% of its ad revenue because of the latest controversy. And that could mean that Elon may sell Tesla stock next year. The reason why I say it's as much as 50% is because if you do the math based on how much revenue Twitter generated before it was purchased by Elon, it was making more money, but then after Elon acquired it, the revenue drop from advertising was significant. So I'm calculating 50% from that drop. However, if you read the wording carefully here, it says Twitter could lose as much as 75 million in advertising revenue by the end of the year. It does not say it already lost that much, basically, and that's certain to happen. And X in a statement said that $11 million in revenue was at risk, and that the exact figure fluctuated as some advertisers returned to the platform and others increased spending. The company said the numbers viewed by the Times were either outdated or represented an internal exercise to evaluate total risk. So it's not necessarily what's actually happened, but that's the total risk. There is some real effect here, of course, but is it really 50%? Probably not. It could be if Elon and the X team did not do anything at all to fix this situation, but yeah, I think most likely the damage is not going to be that high, but certainly I would increase the odds of Elon selling Tesla stock next year. But I don't think the chances of Elon selling a lot of Tesla stock are high next year. I think there is a chance, but I don't think it's very high. But the situation could change very quickly. Here's some of the latest data about auto inventory in the US, and look at the lowest number, 33 days of supply. The highest is 186. Where would Tesla be here? In Q3, Tesla was at 16. So let's say it is at 17 days of supply, which means you take the number one company right here, and Tesla has inventory that is half of this. In other words, Tesla's demand is still very, very, very high. I think it becomes worrisome somewhere around the 90-day level. By then, yeah, you have a problem. Oh, Cruise actually prepares for a limited restart of driverless taxi service in the US. There's no specific timeline though, and they say they will only focus on one single city. They will not go to multiple markets anymore. Time to artificial general intelligence seems to be roughly halving annually. I think every single investor, as well as an educated citizen, should pay very close attention to this chart. This chart shows expected years until a general artificial intelligence system becomes available. Just in 2020, the consensus was it's going to take us 50 years. Then in 2022, that went down to 34 years. Then ChatGPT launches to the public. That's now down to 18 years, and this year, now it is down to 8 years? The Industrial Revolution was a big deal, but what we might go through is going to pale in comparison to everything before. Now, there is a chance that it may not turn out anything like this at all, but I think it is wise to closely follow all of the major AI developments. I think the importance of money will be diminished after AGI, but I don't think that money will become irrelevant. I think it will still be important because there are just some things that you cannot make more of. For example, like land, especially in big cities, in the city center. So I think human beings will continue to compete for status like they always have before. And having money, more money, is a part of that. But our society will probably look very, very, very different. Elon made a political comment here, which seems sound. We should greatly increase legal immigration of anyone who is hardworking, honest, and loves America. Every such person is an asset to the country, but massive illegal immigration of people we know nothing about is insane. I looked into immigrating into the US for one of my family members earlier, and it seems that unless you have some extremely special talents, like let's say you are an NBA player or a super famous musician or someone like that, or you are really rich, or you get lucky with the green card lottery, you're not coming here. But Canada, where I live, has a merit-based immigration system, and it's actually, if you are educated and if you are fairly skilled and you don't have a criminal record, it's fairly easy to come here. It's going to take you some time, maybe a year or two, but you are pretty much guaranteed to actually get in. And if you don't meet the criteria, it is very clear what you need to do. Oh, and I forgot one more legal way to immigrate into the US, and that is to marry a US citizen. The US immigration system, I believe personally, needs some serious reform. It's just not good at all. I think many Tesla stock investors are unaware of the fact that the tax credit for the Model 3, starting on January 1st, basically, is going to drop from $7,500 to $3,750. So Tesla needs to import more batteries from countries that the US has a trade agreement with. For example, South Korea is one of these countries. And Troy says that the tax credit will drop to 0 for the Model 3 in 2025. But Tesla, of course, is aware of that. So I would be pretty surprised if Tesla does not have a plan that it is actively working on to make sure that this does not happen. Some people are expecting Tesla stock to go up a lot once FSD 12 version is released. But for that to happen, I think FSD has to be incredibly good. I mean, so good that you could just turn it on and it can drive you from downtown LA to downtown New York City without any interventions. We would have to start seeing multiple videos where the car can drive downtown for maybe 4 hours or so without any interventions. And it wouldn't be just one video from one person, but from many people. And that experience has to be easily replicatable by everyone, anywhere pretty much in the US. So unless FSD 12 is that good, which I don't really expect it to be that good the moment it is released to the wider public. Unless it's that good, I would not expect the stock to move much, if at all almost. Just like the stock did not move at all once FSD beta was released to the wider public last year. I personally, of course, based on all my research, I'm convinced that Tesla will be the first company to really scale full self-driving. But the market, I don't think, is going to really care too much about FSD version 12, unless it is ridiculously good. Elon Musk was talked about on this podcast that Jordan Peterson was just on, and to me it was a pretty interesting discussion.
Elon's someone that people probably look up to and admire and aspire to be.
One of the downsides to high-level genius is you might describe it as hypomania. So here's a simple test that people can do. So this is a test of something called verbal fluency, and verbal fluency is associated with creativity. And so here's a simple verbal fluency test. Write down as many 4-letter words as you can in 3 minutes that begin with T. Okay, that's pretty constrained, 4 letters and T. Or write down as many words as you can in 3 minutes that begin with S. That's less constrained. All right, so there's quite a powerful correlation between the sheer number of words that you produce and your lifetime creative achievement, right? Especially in the artistic and verbal domains. That's different than vocabulary. Vocabulary is how many words you understand. Fluency is how many words you can produce in a given amount of time.
Deployment of those words, yeah.
Well, people vary to a degree that you can hardly imagine. So some people, if you get them to do the 4-letter test in 3 minutes, they'll write down like 12 words. And some will write down 150. And the ones who are writing down 150, their minds are going at a hypomanic rate. They're just thinking 5 times as fast as...
Bing, 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 bing.
Yeah, without any remission whatsoever. And when that gets completely out of control, you have manic. You have someone who's manic. And there's nothing fun about manic. That's where the word maniac comes from. And someone who's manic has 1,000 different plans, each of which are 1 sentence long, that they're hyper enthusiastic about. They'll spend every cent of their money pursuing them, and things just go immediately to hell. And so that's the outer limit of pathology on the creative front. And someone like Musk, who's clearly a genius, that's what he's contending with in his internal landscape. Now, I'm not saying that he's manic, because I see no signs of that.
I hired over 100 people over my career so far, and that number actually might be well over 100. Yesterday, I hired one more person for a local business I have here in Canada, and I can certainly attest to the effectiveness of this approach where you ask someone to come up with as many words as they possibly can. Or for example, what I specifically used to ask was, tell me as many different ways that you can think of to use a pencil. You have 5 minutes, go. And the people that came up with many more words were always a lot more creative, and these people were better fitted for certain roles. I also found that creativity makes you quite a bit better at sales. So I gave that test to pretty much all of our salespeople before hiring them. I found that the most important thing is not so much how many words you actually come up with, but let's say the test is 10 minutes long. Are you still coming up with a lot of new ideas after the first 5 minutes? I have found that very smart people will give you a lot of things very quickly, and then they just hit this wall if they are not that creative. So they will give you things like, oh, you can write, you can draw, you can sell it and make money. And then after a certain number of these, we just stop. But creative people, maybe they don't come up with that many very quickly at first during the first or the second minute, but after 5 minutes, after 10 minutes, they just keep going. But the smart, not creative people, they just stop. Personally, as a kid, I liked art a lot. For example, I used to draw quite a bit until I was maybe 13 years old, but then I started my first business at 13 and all of that stopped because I just focused on business. But also, I was very good at math. I placed in the top 20 in the Math Olympics. It was a small country, but I was very good at math. And I'm also fairly conscientious. So it's a rare combination to have both. And Elon definitely has both. And Elon is just on a completely different level. I think if you have both, the conscientiousness and creativity, if you don't do something of value to the society, you are selfish. You could make so much money, you could build so many businesses, you can help so many people, and you're not doing that, that's selfish. And Elon certainly does not need to work a single day, a single extra day in his life, but he chooses to. So for that reason, I respect him very, very much. And I don't think for Elon, it is about power. For many people, or for some people, after they make money, then they start chasing power. I personally, I have zero interest in power. I just want to have freedom. And Elon, I don't think has any aspirations really to acquire power for the sake of power.
He also appears to me to be hyper conscientious. And I know people who've worked with him. Like Musk isn't just a creative genius. He's also an extremely conscientious engineer, and really conscientious engineers, they have very interesting minds. I like talking to engineers because my brother-in-law is a great engineer. And when he understands something, Jim, when he understands something, he understands how to build it out of atoms, right? Like he understands it at every single level. And Musk appears to me to be someone who's this rare combination of hyper creative, but also hyper conscientious. And I know that he works all the time.
Yeah, does that sort of hypertrophied executive function help to wrangle some of the diffuse creative energy? Oh, we're going to put it into this one thing, at least for a while, and then we'll move on to another thing.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Musk is hyper creative and, as far as I can tell, hyper conscientious. And the conscientiousness does focus. And that lots of people who are creative aren't conscientious. Well, it's rare. Like if you're there's no correlation between creativity and conscientiousness. Okay, so if you're 1 in 1,000, if you're the most creative person in 1,000, and you're the most conscientious person in 1,000, you're one person in 1,000,000. And Musk is probably more like one person in 100 million, right? Something like that, maybe more, or maybe 1 billion.
Yeah, I think in this context, the word hyper describes Elon very well. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button right now and subscribe if you haven't yet. That greatly helps the channel. And this is the video that you should watch next as YouTube. But if you haven't finished watching this video yet, watch this one first. My name is Matt Postius, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.